Coach, just talk about the challenges.
Is there an opening statement?
No.
Coach, the challenges of this season with COVID. And first off, did you ever think you'd be still fighting this virus when last season shut down and now you move into this season?
That's a loaded question. Of course, I don't think I would have ever dreamed to be kind of dealing with COVID, really dealing with COVID, dating back to whenever the season was canceled last year. I mean, when you look at it, we've almost been dealing with this for a year now. And people ask a lot, or say, hey, we're so sorry. What happened to you guys last year? And look, I lived in the moment of the season being canceled for maybe a day or two, and then it's just on to the next thing with our guys. And the first thing that we could do last spring was control our academics, and we got a 3.61 team GPA, which was the highest team GPA we've ever had. Back that up this fall with a 3.598. So the guys have done really well in the classroom. But no, I didn't. But as we all know, we're just really happy and excited, and our guys are super pumped up that we're going to have the ability to go out there and compete this year. And of course, it's going to be different. And, we had already banked on no fans. That's the way we had prepared ourselves mentally. Now, are we keeping our fingers crossed and praying and hoping that by May or June that there's going to be fans in the stands? Of course, but we're just taking it day by day. And as I've told our guys, dating back to when we got together in the fall for the first time, every day is a gift. And we've really gone about that every single day, taking every day as a gift and an opportunity to be together when at times, of course, we were not together in the spring. Physically, we could be together virtually. But I know for me as a coach, it's definitely strengthened the relationship with our players even more, just being able to be around our guys and treating every day as a gift.
Hey, Cliff, this is Troy. Quick question. What do you think the weather's going to be like opening day?
Well,
just a joke, Coach. It's just, sorry, Ronnie, I took your question.
Hopefully not like today.
Seriously, though, what about managing the roster this year? You got a bunch of guys back that normally you wouldn't have with this weird, COVID year and the rules. So you've got more players than you probably were expecting this season. Just discuss the challenges of managing the roster this year.
Well, Troy, it really goes back to the end of the spring when the NCAA said that the seniors could come back, the draft's being reduced, and a lot of uncomfortable conversations that I had with some players that were a part of our program that are no longer a part of our program. And I have really good relationships with our players, and sometimes the conversations are not comfortable, but there's some guys that probably would be here that are not here right now. But with the way COVID has affected guys coming back, the draft being reduced, guys had to entertain other opportunities to go elsewhere, which I just was really honest and say, hey, it's going to be tough for you to play. And of course, I want those individuals to be able to go out and compete if they feel like they can do that somewhere else. So for us, it really was managed, Troy, back in April and May more so than this fall. I mean, once the fall was here, you kind of have your roster set for what it's going to be in the spring.
Can you update as far as the preseason, kind of where you're at now? I know, you've had some COVID issues and different things. Where are you at practice wise? And this weekend, I'm assuming you'll be able to scrimmage, that type of thing. Just whatever you can kind of update where y'all are doing now.
You mean we had some COVID issues because, everybody said that we had a cluster. So I laugh a little bit, not that COVID's not serious, but just to define cluster, which I'm sure all you guys know because you guys are in the media, but that means 5 or more. So we have 40 players. So no offense, 5's not that many. I'm not saying we had 5 or we had 8 or we had 12, but 5's not that many. The other thing is because a lot of our guys went through COVID and COVID protocols in the fall, we have right now 18 guys that have antibodies. So almost half our team have antibodies right now, which is awesome because they still have the antibodies to fight off the disease. So we do still have quite a few guys that are in the COVID protocol. We should get most of those guys back either late this weekend or early next week, depending on all their blood work and the EKGs and the return to play stuff. But we're excited to just get out there and compete this weekend, which we will scrimmage Friday, Saturday, Sunday, weather permitting.
besides just having guys available, can you talk about some of the intangibles that you're kind of hoping to, be in your favor to make the difference in having a really good team and just having just above average team?
That's a good question. Number one, our guys have all said to us as coaches that the one thing that COVID has allowed, going back to the spring Zoom calls, the summer Zoom calls, when we got the freshmen that are now on our roster incorporated into our team and just getting them going with our culture, is that because they're creating such a tight bubble in the fall, they've become closer to one another. So the positive is they have better relationships probably than any other team that we've ever had here since I've been the head coach. And some of it was forced because of COVID, but man, you talk about guys that really care about one another. And I think we have that. The challenges for us is they are super close. So at times at practice, they maybe joke around too much and maybe not be as locked in. But other than that, it's been a tremendous asset for us that our guys are super close to one another.
When you look at the scrimmages this weekend, anything you're kind of looking for in particular? Or do you think that's a big kind of next step, just competition-wise, and getting them out there and getting closer to the season type of thing?
Well, we need to play live baseball. It's one thing to go out there and do a coach pitch scrimmage, but to get the pitchers facing live batters, get the batters to face live pitching, that's going to help us get prepared for February 19th, whether we're playing Rhode Island or somebody else. That's the other thing that we've prepared our team to be able to do is, look, we could be called in a moment's notice and say, hey, look, we can't come play you because of COVID protocols, and we will do everything we can to just go play baseball. So our guys are super excited. Once we got back from Christmas, I know they've been looking forward to that February 19th date. They feel like it's probably tomorrow, which there's a lot of work to be done between now and February 19th.
Coach, when you look at this year's team, do you feel like with the guys coming back and the recruiting classes you have brought in, that this has the potential to be the deepest team you've ever had?
Definitely has the potential. We need to, stay healthy, but I think we probably could maneuver through some injuries better this year than we've ever been able to in the past, especially on the mound. And as we know, injuries are part of playing sports. So I want to fall in and take what Nick Saban said and just kind of be a copycat, I guess. But we don't want to look at those guys that are on the bench as backup players. They're just starters that haven't got into the game yet. So we want our guys to all be prepared. We've talked to them also about that more so than ever, the guy that stands next to you playing your position's got to be more ready to play your position than they ever have been before because of COVID, because of the contact tracing. So we want to be able to go out and look, our goal is for us, ECU baseball, to play every game possible that we can play. And I look at Alabama football, I look at Clemson football, and those are just two because I follow those two teams pretty closely. And I don't think they ever missed a game because their COVID issues or their COVID protocols. I'm not saying we couldn't miss a game because another team has an outbreak, but we want to control everything we can control. And if we can do that, then we're going to put ourselves in pretty good shape.
Coach, Thomas Francisco, he's played a couple different positions so far. And in the Purple Gold World Series, he played left field. Is that where you're planning on him playing this year? And if so, how has he made that transition?
We wanted to get Frannie a lot of work in the outfield just because he's never been out there consistently. And I'll tell you this, our coaches have been thrilled with his adjustment to play out there. He will either play left field, first base, DH, but he'll be in the lineup. So don't worry about that. But he'll either play left field, first base, but he also can play third still, in a pinch. So we need that guy in our lineup.
Since last season ended, and since it obviously wasn't a full season, it's been so long. Have there been any guys during this long offseason that have made gains, either in the weight room or on the field, that type of thing, that have really kind of used this time in a positive way?
Well, I'll go back to just the COVID time in the spring. One guy in particular, actually a few, but the one that jumps out to me to start with is Ryder Giles. Ryder played tremendous shortstop for us in a brief amount of time last year, but a guy that did not make one error in the entire 2020 calendar. So that's the 17 games we played in the spring, plus the however many games we played inter squads in the fall, which guys got up to 70 at bats. So a lot of baseball. That's pretty impressive. But he got stronger. He got faster. Him and I were able to work on his swing virtually, during the spring, and he's a much better hitter today than he was last spring, and that's a credit to him and the way he went about his business. Carter Spivey is another guy that went home and really worked on his glove side command of his fastball and tightened up his slider. And Coach Dietrich and Coach Knight and Spives really worked on that during the quarantine period, and he was a different guy when you look at it. And in the fall, the guys that really stood out of making big jumps to me was Carter Spivey, Carson Wisenhunt, Ryder, Seth Cadell. Seth made as big a jump for me and our staff from a mentality standpoint, caught every inning of an inter squad, took foul tips off his body. I think he struck out 3 times and close to 70 at bats, tied for the league in home runs with Norby with 5. So a guy that really has put it together and is a much better player today than he was a year ago.
Coach, when you look at the starting rotation, I know you're not going to set it obviously this far out, but having 3 guys back with Smith, Cooch, and Gavin that have some experience, I mean, do you kind of maybe envision them in a perfect world starting the year as starters? And then who are some other guys that could potentially fight for those roles?
You mean, Igo, you don't think I'm going to give you the rotation today?
I'm going to say that you're not going to give it to us.
There's 5 guys that really came out of the fall that are going to compete for those spots. And you mentioned 3 of them, Gavin Williams, Tyler Smith, Jake Kuchmaner, but the other 2 are Carter Spivey and Carson Wisenhunt. Carson's ceiling is as high as anyone I've ever coached in my life. And that's not to add pressure on him. I told him he just needs to go out and do what he did in the fall. If he does that, then we'll be in good shape. But 6'4" lefty, 90-95 with a wipeout breaking ball, and has been able to manage his emotions a lot better than he has before. Now, the kicker is going to be is, can we do that with another jersey in the batter's box? Because as we know, that's different. But those 5 guys really did a great job of taking the ball, starting, and making it really hard on our hitters. Another guy that could start is Cam Colmore. And Cam's obviously been a swing guy for us, a lot of different roles, but Cam would be in the mix if something happens, somebody gets hurt, COVID protocols, and we feel very confident with Cam and what he can do. Another guy we're trying to just push his pitch count a little bit is Skylar Brooks. So we're trying to develop as many starters as possible, because as we know with COVID, you might get dinged for contact tracing and you might have a guy miss a start. So we got to have a lot of guys prepared. Tristan Kimmel, another guy that started for us some last year, and his stuff's a lot better. And if we can keep getting him to treat every pitch like a separate entity, then he's going to have the ability to do that as well.
Kind of along those lines, with CJ Mayhew last year, we got a taste of how good he can be. Obviously, that Ole Miss game, maybe what do you envision for him, being a bullpen guy or a closer or swing guy? What I don't know, role could he potentially have in a year like this?
Well, the one thing I have learned with just the minimal amount of media interviews I've done is sometimes I forget, because we do have more pitching, but Mayhew is a guy that could potentially start. But if we were to play this weekend, him, Matt Bridges, Ryder Giles, Garrett Saylor, and Cam would be kind of those go-to guys out of the bullpen. And of course, we've got some freshmen that pitch really well at times. So there's a lot of different options, but we're definitely going to hand the ball to those guys to start with, because they've got a track record of doing it at a very high level.
Coach, scrolling through the roster, I noticed Turner Brown is listed as a graduate manager. Is he back with the team helping you guys out this year?
He sure is. So the way the NCAA rules work are, if you're a graduate assistant, you have to have played at that school, and you also have to be within your 5-year window. So Turner playing a year and a half of professional baseball, then he's not considered a graduate assistant coach. He can be a graduate manager. So Turner does want to get into college coaching at some point. So it allows him to be with us every single day. As a player, you get to see mostly of what the coaches do, but it's always amazing to me, even the guys that are the most knowledgeable about our program that play for us, then they see how many hours that the coaches work, and they're here before every player gets here. They leave after every player has left. And so he's getting a taste of that. And, he can also throw BP and hit fungos as well, being a graduate manager.
Coach, when you look at college baseball as a whole this year with so many quality guys coming back, do you think, outside of the obvious COVID stuff, do you think this could be kind of the most talented crop of college baseball teams that we've seen recently?
100%. I tell our guys all the time, like, we're good. We're probably as deep as we've ever been, but we're not the only team saying that. There's a lot of teams out there saying that because the draft was short. And I think college baseball's product that you will see in the talent level will be at the highest you've ever seen it because of the shortened MLB draft.
I know it's kind of a long way away, but fitting, I guess, to ask this today. But what are your kind of early thoughts about the 4-game weekend series thing and how to manage that in league play? I mean, it's obviously something different that will be an aspect of this season eventually.
Ronnie, I just glad they're letting us play baseball, and I'm not trying to be, funny. I'm really not, but I don't care if they told us to play 5 games in 3 days. We'd show up and we'd play. If the Dodgers showed up on February 19th, we'd play them. We'd probably get beat, but we'd still play them. So we're going to take it one day at a time, and when we get to that, we'll figure it out. But we have enough pitching to manage that, those weekends. Now, we got to go out there and play well and pitch well and all that good stuff, but we're in a good situation to be able to get through those 4 games. And the conference still has not came back with a final decision on what day the doubleheader is going to be on. We're pushing for it to be on the first day, except on the Easter weekend, which is opening weekend, which it would stay on that Friday. So we play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that opening weekend of conference. And then the last weekend going into the conference tournament, it will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it will be on the first day for that. As far as we know, we're trying to figure all that stuff out. We also don't know if it'll be 2 9s, on the doubleheader. I'm 99% sure it won't be 2 7s because I don't want to play 2 7s. I want to play at least a 9 and a 7, and that's what the majority of the head coaches want. We are also pushing for the major league extra inning rule for the 4-game series weekends in conference, which I think we have a good chance of. The NCAA has to just basically approve that for us to play, and I think that will go through as well.
Coach, are there any other questions for Coach?
Yeah, I got one
Okay,
last one. The competition in the outfield, obviously with Bryson coming back and Hoover, Small, some of those guys, and Francisco, can you just talk about how you maybe see that envision playing out and what that competition will be like in the outfield?
Well, I feel like Bryson and Hoove and Frannie and Smalls are all going to play out there. I also feel like Riley Johnson, a freshman who dealt with a quad issue in the fall, but has proven that he's a gamer. And he's like Lane, except he probably has a little bit more power, and he's a gamer. And we're super excited about him. But there's also other guys that could go out there as well. I mean, AMAC is probably the guy that's not talked about as much, and that's Alec Makaravich. It's way easier to say AMAC for you media people than to try to say that last name. So I would go with AMAC. But he's a stud, and he can play third. He can play second. He could probably play short in a pinch. He can play all outfield positions, and he's a switch hitter. So I know one thing, that guy's going to play for us. I don't know if he'll be starting on opening day, but there's never been a guy in our program, and this is the highest compliment I can give any person that ever comes to our program, that has gotten more out of every practice that we've ever had at East Carolina than that guy. The intent on every ground ball he takes, every BP session, it's like he's playing for the national championship every single day. And that guy had a great fall. He's had a great preseason up to this point, and we're super excited about him. So he's going to play a lot for us this year.
Okay, any other questions for Coach Godwin?
Malcolm, I just want to say thanks for them to take the time to come out today. And I know times are different, and I know you guys would rather be at Clark LeClaire, as I wish you guys could be here as well. But thanks for what you do to promote ECU baseball and also ECU athletics. And I know I can be a pain sometimes, but I do really appreciate you guys taking an interest to our sport and to our players.